Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Mark Mooney from Queen's University Belfast. And this morning, I'm just going to go through a presentation talking about the MSc for Advanced Food Safety, which is a master's level course that we run within the School of Biological Sciences. I am the program coordinator for this master's program, also teach on the program, and within the School of Biological Sciences, I am a senior lecturer within that. So just a little bit about Queen's before we get into the details about the course. So as you can see here, Queen's is based in Northern Ireland, in the north of Ireland, obviously, but it's part of the United Kingdom. And again, we can see here there's very good linkages into Belfast from different airports within the UK and also within Ireland. Northern Ireland has been identified as the happiest place in the UK to live in. It also is identified as having the lowest cost of living in the UK, which obviously is very important for students. We're going to spend a year in Belfast. That's very important in terms of accommodation, food, and different types of things like that as well. So it's very important from a student point of view. In terms of the university itself, we're consistently ranked within the top 200 universities in the world. And that is a reflection both of our teaching quality and also of our research quality. So Queen's is a research intensive university. So on master's level programs particularly, all the staff that will teach you are actually people who conduct research in that area, and a majority or quite a significant portion of their time is spent doing research. And the idea would be in master's programs that we run that we would bring that expertise and high level thinking into the master's programs that we run, and you will see that when we get to talk about the modules that you will take during the master's. In terms of Belfast City itself, so I think it's a relatively small city, I would say, compared to other cities within the UK, which is in one aspect is a good thing. Northern Ireland has become a very important tourist hub more recently. And again, this picture here is an image of the Titanic Centre in Belfast, which is a tourist interpretive centre talking about the Titanic ship, which was built in Belfast. And again, tourism is important for the economy. So things like Games of Thrones and other things have become more important in recent years. And again, that is reflected by the ease of access into Northern Ireland in terms of the airports and the flights into Belfast, which has enabled that to happen. So here we can see the traditional image of Queen's. So this is the Lanyon building, which is the founding building of Queen's. So Queen's goes back to 1845 when it was established as a Queen's University. The Queen Victoria enabled the founding of Queen's in Belfast and also universities in Cork and Galway. And Queen's was one of the first ones built for that. So here we have the Lanyon building, which is one of the signature buildings in Belfast. And you can see just on the left-hand side of that building, again, in the same style as the Lanyon, is a building which is the graduate school. And later on, I will talk a little bit more about the graduate school. So in fact, the MSc that we're talking about this morning won't necessarily be taught in this building as such. It will be taught in a new state-of-the-art building, which is 5 minutes walk away from this building itself. And again, I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's the School of Biological Sciences building. And again, most of the teaching will take place in that building, and also the research project aspects will most likely take part in that building as well. So again, just in terms of Queen's itself, so it's the 9th oldest university in the UK. It's ranked 25th in the world for international outlook. It's got a growing number of international students. So over last year, over 2,600 international students came to Queen's. In the area in Belfast, which it's contained in, is South Belfast, and all the campus itself is is built within a residential area, and most of the buildings will be spread out from the Lanyon building that we just talked about previously. Queen's itself is a member of the Russell Group of universities, which is the leading universities within the UK. And again, that's primarily when we're talking about research-intensive universities. So when we talk about Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial, and other universities like that, Queen's are grouped with those. So that's a very important signature of the quality of the experience which Queen's can offer. So as I said, research is a very important thing for a university of Queen's standing. So and obviously the metrics that are used to demonstrate that are very important. And again, that's something that we're conscious of in terms of the educational programs that we offer as well. So Queen's is ranked 8th in the UK for research intensity, which is a marker of the amount of research which staff participate in. And to enable that research to take place, we have to acquire significant external funding. So in 2016-17, Queen's, across a range of areas, brought in £100 million in new research awards. And that research comes from a number of areas. That can be from governmental areas, from EU sources, from charities, from industry. And again, the emphasis is to apply that research to have an impact. Okay, and we'll talk about that later on as well. And again, that outputs of that research is reflected in publications. So when we produce scientific information, the emphasis is to either commercialize that, which we will touch on next, but one of the main aspects of that would be to publish that information, so in peer-reviewed journals. And again, that is Queen's is one of the top performers in that area as well. And again, in terms of impact, the idea would be that some of the research should be utilized for commercial outputs. So again, Queen's has a particularly good reputation in that area, in taking research and making either spin-out companies or having intellectual property generated from that and using that to have impact. So in terms of our teaching and research aspects, as I said, the Masters is run by the School of Biological Sciences, and Queen's is divided into a number of faculties. So as a biological science school, we fit within the Faculty of Medicine, Health and Life Sciences. And again, within that then we have different schools. So we are based in the School of Biological Sciences, and again, we will have interactions with the different schools in the faculty. So School of Medicine, Dentistry and Biomedical Sciences, School of Pharmacy and School of Nursing. And that's pretty important for this program where we're talking about food safety, food security, which will cut across different aspects of those schools. So you will see a lot of the research that we do within biological sciences in this area cuts across into different schools. And that's very important because that brings in this concept of interdisciplinary research. And again, the inputs of that feed into the teaching content that we deliver on our educational programs. So for a university like Queen's, which I said has a high international standing, what we are very keen to do is have international collaborations. And that's both on the research side of things, but also on an educational side of things as well. So you can see here, Queen's based in Northern Ireland, so very close to Almac Diagnostics, which is one of the large international corporations based out of Northern Ireland, which has reach into different continents as well. So we would have strong linkages with Almac, both in terms of the pharmaceutical side of things, but also in terms of diagnostics. And again, a lot of our graduates would go to work for companies like Almac in various fields within their company. On the educational side of things, you can see China Queen's College, which again is an avenue for Queen's to bring teaching into different areas of the world. So again, strong linkages in that area, primarily maybe on the pharmaceutical side of things, but also opens opportunities for the School of Biological Sciences to have reach into those areas as well. In terms of research, most of the researchers within the School of Biological Sciences will have international contacts, and again, that will be through America, into South America, into Australia, but also primarily a lot of our interest and focus on the European Union. So until recently, probably, we've been able to attract a lot of funding from the European Union, primarily because of the interest within the European Union on food security, food safety. That is a major pillar of the European Union, about ensuring that within Europe we have access to safe food, and we also have access to enough food. And again, I would say on a global context, the European Union and UK being part of that for so long have become leaders on that area. And again, it's through that interest and that focus that Queen's have developed significant levels of expertise, which, as we will look in a minute, has expanded into different areas of food. And again, I think if we look at the projects and the work that we do, it will have an impact or have a relevance on a global level. So it's not just about Northern Ireland. Obviously, Northern Ireland is a rural economy which has a lot of agricultural-based industries, a lot of food producers. The agri-food sector is one of the major contributors to the economy of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And for that reason, within Queen's, we would have strong linkages to companies within that region, but also bear in mind that all those companies export globally. So global exports of food from Ireland and Northern Ireland is quite significant. And for that reason, again, Queen's has developed this interest in food and agriculture. Again, we'll talk about that later on as well. So as I said, the School of Biological Sciences has expanded quite significantly in recent years, the food area being one area where the university have invested a lot of money in that, both in terms of the research aspects and in terms of staff recruitment, but also then in terms of the educational programs that we offer as well. So last May, we moved into an approximately £40 million new building in Cloring Gardens in Belfast. This is a new site that was opened up and developed specifically for biological sciences, and it's a significant investment by the university in that area. And again, the image just here on the left-hand side is just an artist's impression, but it's actually a very close representation of what the building looks like at the minute. And this is actually, as you come in the building, you will be in the lobby like this, and basically on the left-hand side of that image, you can see the microbiological suites that we have there. And then on the floors above that, we will get into various labs and research environments that we have on that. So it's a 3-story building. In fact, at the bottom, then if you go down the bottom of that image, there's stairs bringing down into a basement area where we will have the teaching labs and the seminar rooms, where this year that is where we've been conducting the teaching for the MSc Advanced Food Safety has been in that building. So all the teaching has been taking place in the new building. Again, the infrastructure that we're able to access through involvement of the School of Biological Sciences is quite significant. There's mention here of the Queen's Marine Laboratory, which is a unique research environment and infrastructure that we can access. But also we should point out that on the food side of things, we have very advanced analytical capabilities. So we have a mass spectrometry suite, which has approximately 20 different types of mass spectrometry instruments in there. So a lot of our focus is on mass spectrometry and spectroscopic types of techniques, but also then in terms of diagnostics, we're very well catered for in terms of biosensor and sensor technologies. And again, when we talk about the different programs, I will talk a little bit about some of the content that we talk about that. So from an analytical point of view, I would say the food labs within Queen's are really state of the art. And again, that is something that's probably unique to universities within the UK and probably on a global level as well, because all the research that's going on, or most of the research that's going on there, is focused on food-related aspects. And maybe in other institutions, those types of instruments might be more focused on medicine or biomedical purposes as well. So it's not to say that research doesn't go on, but the emphasis really is on food safety, food security related research. And because of that expertise and capabilities within the university, we are designated as a global research institute. So that is the Institute for Global Food Security. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But so that not necessarily is focused on food safety aspects, but also brings in wider aspects such as animal health, human health, consumer perception, and wider aspects of things like engineering and other things that probably feed into this idea of having a secure and safe food chain. So through that investments in that area, probably I would say over the last 15 to 20 years, Queen's have really expanded into this area, and that has been recognised through a number of different means. So we have within the UK a research excellence framework, which is an assessment of the research quality within UK universities. And then we also other mechanisms such as the Good University Guide, which again looks at various aspects of ongoing research. And again, Queen's in this area is the top, one of the, if not the top, at the very close to the top of the rankings in all these fields as well. So again, I think that's an independent assessment of the quality of the work that goes on at Queen's. So in terms of the work that does go on at Queen's, what we, and I talked about the Global Institute for Global Food Security. And again, that breaks down across a number of areas. So I would say food safety, integrity and authenticity, and the food nutrition and health are probably the two main areas of that quadrant that the MSc in Advanced Food Safety will focus on. That does not mean that there are other things such as environmental aspects in terms of the ecosystem biology and sustainability, or that the microbes and pathogen biology don't cut across into those sections. But primarily the staff that will teach on the MSc program will have an interest in food safety and food nutrition aspects. And again, when we talk about food safety and integrity, again, we're talking about a range of different things. So when we look at the content of the Masters, you will see that we will focus quite a bit on food safety. What are the incidents and the issues that affect food safety and what we can do to control those type of things. In recent years, we've got very well recognized for research in terms of food fraud and food authenticity. So looking at food systems, trying to understand what is happening, try to identify where problems have come about, but also developing the diagnostic or the analytical capability to detect those issues when they arise. So what you will find in the food system is that it's quite a quickly evolving area. So when an issue arises, then we need to be rapidly identifying what is happening, because that food, by the time it's been produced, will probably already be consumed somewhere. So the idea would be that you really need to have rapid and early detection of food safety issues. And that is both from a regulatory point of view, so governmental agencies and other authorities who need to be doing that analysis need that information, but also on the industry side, people, companies need to develop their own testing capabilities, because ultimately they are responsible for the safety of the food that they put on the market. So in terms of the areas that we're interested in, so food and feed contaminants is an area. So we're looking at chemical contaminants within the food chain, natural and man-made. Again, we might touch upon that later as well, but also things we have very high expertise in the detection of natural toxins. So plant, marine toxins, how can you detect them? And that leads on to the overarching idea in terms of diagnostics. So I mentioned previously mass spectrometry and biosensors and different types of analytical methods that can be used to do that. More recently, I think we probably have expanded a lot more into the area of human nutrition and also animal nutrition. So looking at what people are eating and what impact that has on their health, looking at the impact of food and food systems and food supply chains, and the relevance that has to development of various metabolic diseases such as obesity and diabetes and cancer. And again, that will link into the work that we have going on with the School of Medicine in those areas as well. And again, Something that we're also interested in about, and maybe we haven't been, or most people have not really been focused on so much, is how do consumers react to these issues? So what do consumers believe about their food, where it comes from, how safe it is, who do they think is responsible for ensuring that it is safe, and what impacts different things have on their behavior. And again, we have a number of researchers working in that area, particularly to try to integrate that with the ongoing, let's say, analytical side of things, about trying to understand how we connect those things better to have a more secure food chain. And as I said, animal health is an area that we're also particularly interested in, both on the nutritional side of things, but also on the disease aspect. So some of the work that we do in analytics and diagnostics are also relevant from a food disease perspective as well. And again, I think if you look at the recent incidents for coronavirus, I think there's a growing recognition that even in a situation like that, which has an impact on human health, the question is now been asked is, how did that come about? And again, I think there's been a growing realization that the pressures of having an increasing world population, requiring more food, has put a stress on the food production system and how we can use the land. And again, you will see some of the research that we'll talk about later on will look at that aspect as well. So how has our strive to produce more food affected the environment? How has that effect on the environment had an impact on human? So it may be the fact that it might seem good that we're producing loads of food, but maybe in the long term, that strive to do that has having negative effects as well. So in this instance, maybe perhaps the pressures put on natural environment has led to the development of diseases, which has a long-term impact on human sustainability as well. In terms of animal health as well, so again, we're looking at different aspects on that side of things as well. In terms of sustainability, is how can we find alternative sources of protein? Can we use insects for animal feed? If we use them, what impact does that have from a safety perspective? We're also very interested more recently on the area of gut health, both in terms of human health, but also then in terms of animal health as well. So there are areas that I think we're particularly adapt to looking into. So in terms of that food safety nutrition grouping, so within the School of Biological Sciences or the Institute for Global Food Security, we probably have about 80 members of academic staff. So when I say academic staff, I mean people who teach, people who research. We mainly consider them to be academic staff or principal investigators from a research point of view. So within the food safety and nutrition, we probably have a growing number of staff in that area. At the minute, we have 20 academic staff that fit within that cluster. And again, each one of those members of staff is focused on research as well as teaching. So within the school, we probably have, or within the school and in this area specifically, we have about 50 PhD students working in that area. And again, they're funded from various sources. And then we have probably 30 postdocs or postdoctoral researchers who also are funded from external sources. And these are researchers who have already completed their PhD and are conducting ongoing research in a particular areas. And again, the reason I highlight them is because it's more than likely that when you're doing your project and different aspects related to that, you will have close engagement with those researchers as well, both PhD students and postdocs. And again, I think, as I mentioned in the previous slide, in terms of the research strengths in this area, and I think the reason I bring up research, even though this is a teaching, a taught program, is the idea that on a master's level program, we should bring in, and the people who teach on the program should bring in aspects of their research into the teaching. So really to make it high level, cutting edge, state-of-the-art information that we're passing on to our students. So again, I think the next slide, I'm going to a little bit more detail about this, but I think, as I said, food safety, food integrity, animal welfare and health, human nutrition and disease, consumer behavior, those are the general themes that will run throughout the teaching content of the master's program. And ultimately, at some point when you do your research project, which again, I'll talk about that shortly, you will probably specialize in one of these areas in terms of the project work that you do. So again, this is just a summary slide just to sort of illustrate some of the things that we're interested in. So again, I've already talked about some of these. I think in terms of food contaminants, we're really interested in chemical contaminants that we know are there, that shouldn't be there within the food supply chain and environment, but also we're interested in natural toxins, things that are there, and maybe we need to recognize how we can control and monitor them and what impact they have on human health as well. So in terms of global food systems, so again, as I talked about food fraud, food authenticity, it's something that we've developed a real specialism in. Professor Chris Elliott is one of our leading researchers within the university, and he's really led the research focus on that, both in the UK but also on a global level. And again, I think, and that really stemmed from the horse meat incident that we had within the UK and Europe a number of years ago, where essentially Chris was tasked with developing the governmental response to that. So from that there, we've developed quite a unique area of expertise led by Chris in that area. And again, the idea is that we should be able to help identify fraud at an early stage, help develop techniques which can authenticate what food is. So if somebody's buying a food product, or if a company is buying food ingredients and different aspects, can they actually demonstrate that it is actually what it is? And again, I think the work that Chris has done has shown that even though we knew a lot of this, there was particular issues in terms of food fraud, I don't think we really realized the scale of what was going on. So Chris Elliott is really leading the area in that field. In terms of nutrition and health, again, as I said, that both is on an animal side of things and in human aspects. So I think human is quite obvious. I mean, we need to know what we're eating, how we're eating it, and what impact it has on our health, and that's critical importance. But also of also major importance is what we're feeding to our animals, because ultimately what you will find through this program is that most of the contaminants that we get into our food chain come somehow through either the plants that we eat or the food that we eat. Okay, and we're primarily talking here about animal-based production systems as well. So again, that's really critical. And again, it's not only identifying what are the problems or what are the issues, but also developing the strategies that can try to prevent or minimize those risks, as I said, both to human and animal health. And again, I just really put this slide up here just to show you, firstly, in terms of the middle aspect, in terms of the breadth of the research that we do, but also then in terms of the various academic staff that are involved in the teaching of the program. So the staff that you see here are all staff that will offer projects to the master's program. So they will provide titles, and I'll show some examples of those titles of projects that we talk about later on. But also these are the academic staff that are tasked with developing research in these areas. So, for example, Andy Maharg is one of our leading professors working on the area of rice, and particularly on the aspects of metals, so things like arsenic and different elements that are brought up into rice, what impact that has on human health, how can we mitigate or reduce the levels of those hazardous substances getting into the rice. So Andy's leading the way in that area. Nigel, Chen, Neve, and Katarina are more focused on the animal health aspects of things. So again, Chen, for example, is looking at developing alternatives for antimicrobials that are not allowed to be used in animal feed anymore, for example. Katarina is also working on developing alternative sources of protein for animals. So she's looking at things like insects and the other plant-based sources and how they can be incorporated into food. Tassis is working in the area of food fraud as well. So he's primarily interested in olive oil and aspects of that. And that leads into Chris Elliott, who again has high interest in food systems and cuts across both authenticity and fraud, but also the food safety side of things. Paul Burton also interested in traceability systems as well. Then at the top, myself, Katarina, and Kwong are more interested in the diagnostic side of things, developing assays and methods that can be used to ensure food safety. So Katrina, for example, is a leading the way in terms of developing techniques for developing assays for detection of toxins within various food commodities. So marine toxins, natural toxins, plant toxins, and things like that. Lisa and Gary Hardiman are then more interested about what impact these contaminants have on humans and how we can show what impact they have and how that can lead on to other diseases. So, for example, Lisa is very interested in looking at the effect of food intake and the contaminants within food on aspects of reproductive health. And that's a big area of interest at the minute, is looking at what are the different types of toxins that are there and how they interact with each other to have detrimental effects on human health. And then really in red, I suppose, are the people who are really at that interface between food safety and human health. So these are more in the nutritional side of things, looking at the links between food and nutrition and disease development. So, for example, Brian Green is interested in aspects of obesity and diabetes, but also more recently has developed an interest in terms of dementia. So things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, trying to show how can our early life nutrition or the nutrition that we've been exposed to throughout our life has had a detrimental impact on human health. And then at the very bottom, then we have the people who are more analytical side of things. So Saskia, Rudy, Lynn, and Sultan, and these are the people who are primarily focused on mass spectrometry techniques. So either utilizing existing mass spectrometry techniques for analysis or developing new methods. And again, they're some of the leading researchers in that area, and they're based out of the mass spectrometry unit within Queen's, which is based in the School of Biological Sciences. So that's really just the background to Queen's and the research that we do. If we move on then to talk a little bit more specifically about the MSc program itself. So it is a 1-year full-time taught MSc program. So it will run from September 2020 to October 2021. So we'll run the full year, and I'll talk about how that's broken down in a minute in terms of the teaching content. But if we actually look then at how a master's, within the UK system, how a master's program is designed. So in a master's, you need to complete 180 CATs. Okay, these are points that you need to develop, and that 180 CATs then is broke down into different modules, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. So to get a master's at a UK level, you need to demonstrate that you pass modules equating to 180 CATs points. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. So I said all the teaching that's done on the program and the projects that we deliver are by members of the Institute for Global Food Security. So these are full-time research active staff within the university. And the teaching content within the masters will be delivered both by taught, so lecture-based type of seminar type of teaching, but also complemented by practical elements, and I'll talk about that in a minute in terms of the modules that will offer that. So we will have practical classes in conjunction with lecture-based teaching as well. And again, the idea would be a major component of the MSc will be the fact that you will do a research project. So that research project will be equal to 60 CATs, so it's a third of the program will be dedicated to the research project. And again, that research project will align to the research interest of the staff that teach in the program. Okay, so I think that's pretty important. So I think when you come to Queen's, hopefully, I think the selection of the project that you do is quite critical, because that's obviously what you're going to spend most of your time on in terms of focus from a research point of view, but also then in terms of then when you look for employment afterwards, it's most likely that is what interviewees or interviewers will actually want to chat about, is what you did during the masters. And again, talking about your research project will be the one area where you will have developed significant expertise. So I think that's very important to focus on that. And again, I think a main emphasis of the program would be to look at new and emerging issues within food safety and food security. So we need to obviously look at historically what has happened, but we need to also be at the forefront of thinking of what is happening now or what might be happening in the future. So I think that's important from a topic point of view, but also then we would like to really be also thinking about the new and emerging analytical methods and techniques and approaches that can be used to help ensure food safety and food security. So I think we will try to merge those two things in terms of the content that we will deliver. And again, I think if we look at the people who take this program, so I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, the class size has ranged from maybe 17 to 18 to 20 to 24 to 25 people. So each year that will be the normal number of students that we will take into this program. And again, I would say that we have quite a diverse background of students coming onto the program. So more recently, we have had a very high number of international students coming onto the program. And that's reflecting students coming from China, from India, from this year we have students from Lebanon, from Greece, from the UK, and then in previous years we have students from Ghana, Nigeria, and other nations as well. So quite a diverse background of students on the program, which is quite good, both from a teaching point of view, because we get to interact with students who have got different concepts or concerns about food safety and food security, and we like to bring that out of those students into the classroom to more interactive style of teaching and try to have a wider appreciation of what really is a global problem. But also that means then in terms of our teaching style, we've had to adjust that slightly in terms to cater for the fact that we have a high number of international students on the program. So I think that's just something to bear in mind, that it is quite an international focused program. And again, I think the core topics, and we look at that in terms of the modules. So in terms of core topics, we will have 3 major, I would say, food specific modules, which will be unique and specific to the students of the master's program. And then we'll have some other modules which are more focused on skills development, so transferable skill development. I think that's important as well, because when you go to seek employment, you need to have certain skills. So this might be writing skills or presentation skills, or have knowledge about ethics and different aspects of scientific research or scientific knowledge. And I think there are things that we would like to develop in modules that you will actually take with other students as well. So again, I think one of the unique things about this course as compared to other courses that you might be considering is the fact that it is quite focused on analytical methods. So, and again, that comes from the historical interest that we have in those techniques. So, we really would like to bring that through in terms of the content that we do, and also in terms of the practical experience the students will get in terms of their lab skills that they'll be able to develop. And again, I've just listed some of these here, but again, it's not limited to this. And again, I would say that during your project, that will enable you to develop more focused skills. So, a lot of these are quite high-level instruments and high-level analytical methodologies, and we hope to, bring some of that knowledge to you. But really, I think it would be during your project that you will develop that sort of deep-level knowledge and hands-on experience that would be important for your future careers. And again, I think from an educational point of view, I think, as I said previously, Queen's has a really high reputation in this area. I think both within the UK, but also on a global level as well. And that comes not just from the programs that we teach, but also in terms of the staff that we have recruited into Queen's and we have working within Queen's. That has developed that reputation. So I think on a global level, when you mention food safety, food security, Queen's University is probably one of the first universities that will come up in those type of conversations. So in terms of the program itself and how we deliver it, so essentially, as I said, it will run from September to October, so a full 12 months. Semester 1 will start at the end of September, hopefully this year. And again, in semester 1, which will be a 15-week semester from September right through to Christmas time, we will run 3 modules. Food safety, health and disease is a 20 CATS module. Advanced food analysis, a 20 CATS module, and there are 2 food-specific programs. But then also you will take the research skills for biosciences module with the other MSc students within the School of Biological Sciences. Then in January time, we will run again 3 modules: agri-food traceability and fraud, bio-entrepreneurship, and advanced skills, which again will be a transferable skill module that you will take with other master's students or students in other master's programs within the school. And they're both 20 CATS modules. But also in January time, we will, with your input, provide you with a research project title. And the literature review module is basically a 20 CATS module where you will write a literature review on the topic before you actually start the project in May time. So in May, June, July, August, right into September time, you will be working on your research project, which is a triple module. So a triple module is a 60 CATS module. And that again reflects the importance that we put on that module. Okay, so that's quite a significant third of the program is focused on the research project. And actually, if you consider the fact that the literature review is at 20 CATS, then that particular topic that you'll be working on is worth even more than that. So it's quite an important module. So triple module really means just a 60 CATS module. And just on this, when we're looking at this slide, just to bear in mind that we don't have any exams in this module. We have no written exams. So for example, food safety, health and disease is a 20 CATS module. What we will offer, how we will assess that module is basically by doing continuous assessment. So food safety, health and disease, you will do 5 pieces of continuous assessment spread out over the module period. Some of that will be group work, so we will have group presentations. Other parts of it will be independent, either written exercises or different types of lab-based type of work. And again, we'd sort of like to have this group element within that, but also then there will be independent work within that as well. So all the modules that I describe here, everything is done by continuous assessment, and no formal written examinations. And again, the pass mark for each module is 50%. So you need to get 50% in each module to pass the module. And again, as you pass the module, you build up the CAT points to get to 180 CATS points, which will allow you to exit with an MSc. So again, I think the first module, as you come in September time, the first module that you will do will be food safety, nutrition, health and disease. And again, I think this is an important module because it sort of brings everybody up to speed to the same level. And again, the idea of this module is really to look at the different biological, chemical, and nutritional aspects of food that impact on health. Okay, and again, this module is run in a way that each week one member of academic staff will take that week's content. So Dr. Shesu Su will coordinate this module, and she will start the module, but then it will pass on each week to a different module, or different academic member staff who will focus specifically on a topic. And again, the idea, I think some of this is focused on chemical contaminants, but also then maybe later on is more focused on the obesity, metabolic disease type of cardiovascular type of work that we've going on as well. So I think the idea would be this module is really a lecture or seminar based module that's fully taught. So there's no practical elements in this module, but again, it's really setting the scene for all the students. And again, it's quite a nice module because again, we have quite a bit of group work and group presentations, group discussions, group debates, different types of things. And really the idea would be also then to encourage students to interact both with staff who are teaching. So I think, as I said at the start, we would like this type of teaching to be interactive type of teaching, but also then we would like it to be in a situation whereby we can encourage students to become more involved with each other. So I think that's okay for that one. Advanced food and bioanalysis then is the second module that you will take, and this will be coordinated by Professor Katrina Campbell. And unlike the first module that I described, this here will be a combination both of lab-based practical demonstrations with lecture-based material as well. So again, there will be some assessments, so no examinations, but there will be continuous assessment elements within this module. Some of that will be based on the practicals and the demonstrations that you do, and some of it will be based on the content that you will get in class as well. So just to bear in mind, I would say in the first semester primarily, there will be teaching most likely on each day. So I can't say that for sure for next year because I haven't seen the timetable. But last year, for example, from Monday to Friday, we had 2 hours, say from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock each morning. We had class time, and then maybe the fundamentals or the fundamental skills and biosciences was a combined class, was on a Wednesday afternoon with all the other master students. And the idea essentially is that for master's level thinking, we really would like you as the student to be doing some self-directed learning as well. So once you become registered from Queen's, you will be given access to the university library facilities, and also access to the databases, the scientific literature databases that we use within Queen's, and the full text journals and different things that you will need to do your own research on these topics as well. So we will have class contact time. We will give you assessments to do. There will be deadlines for those assessments, and the idea would be then that you would work independently and using the help of the content that you've got initially, but also then to expand and build that to complete your own assessments. So again, we really would like to see develop that. And it's not just so much that it would be fact-based searching. We really would like to develop sort of critical analysis skills within you. So just because I said it, or somebody said something to you, doesn't necessarily mean that is true or that you have to believe with it or agree with it. But really would like you to independently assess and evaluate the information that you get. Look at the other information that is out there and try to bring that content into the assessments. So your submissions for your assignments should really demonstrate that critical analysis and wider evaluation of the information that you're able to access as well. So food traceability and fraud then is the third food-specific program that you will take on the program. This module is coordinated by Professor Andy Maharg, and again, as I said, this is sort of relies on the expertise and the capacity that we built within Queen's in this area. So we're looking at food traceability, food fraud, and again, different members of academic staff who are involved in this research will teach you in these areas and talk about food fraud. Maybe that's on specific aspects of food fraud or more wider aspects about that. But again, the idea would be to develop some understanding and appreciation of the significance of this topic in the wider context of food security. Professor Andy Maharg coordinates this module, and again, there's a number of assessments built into this module. Last year, one of them was looking at, for example, coffee from different parts of the world. So Andy basically got his students to buy or find coffee from where they're from or different parts of the world. We brought them into the lab and we looked at various analytical techniques to try to demonstrate about their authenticity and look at some of the geographical traceability around that. And again, that formed one of the assessments that Andy did during that module. And that assessment, looking at different analytical techniques, spectroscopic techniques, and mass spectrometry methods, ran through the whole module. So that was one element that ran through that. And that gives an idea of the type of assessment that we're trying to do. And again, as I said, food traceability and food fraud is quite a significant topic. And again, as I said, we will have a number of staff who will come and teach on that module as well. So again, in terms of, yes, we will primarily focus on food safety, food security issues as well, as a main aspect of the program. But again, I think we would like to develop wider skills within the students. So again, that is the focus of the two common modules that MSc Advanced Food Safety students will take with other MSc students on the parasitology course or on the biotechnology course that we offer. So again, this will be larger groups teaching, but again, the idea of having that there is because these topics cut across the different programs that we teach on. So this Foundations for Research in the Bioscience module will be a semester 1 module. Again, the idea would be to look at wider aspects. So it's not just food safety, food security orientated type of issues that we will deal with. These are more wider aspects. And again, the idea of this module, through the assessments and assignments that you will do for this module, which again will all be by continuous assessment, is to develop different types of skills. So writing skills, communication skills, wider appreciations of aspects about budgeting, where we may or may not get funding to conduct scientific research, having you think about the impact of research. So it's okay us doing research, but we need to demonstrate and show the significance of that work both to the funders, which may be industry or maybe government agency, but also then to the wider public. If we do all this research, then we need to make sure that we can disseminate that and make sure that people understand the relevance and importance of that. So I think that's become more relevant in recent years, where people have questioned, what scientists are doing, how we communicate that to the general public. How can we make sure, if we make developments in developing new analytical methods that can improve food safety, well, how are we going to bring that out to the companies and the end users that really can benefit from that research? So I think this module is really focused on that area of things. And again, one of the assessments for this will be that you will develop an idea or concept for a research idea, and you will develop a poster and a video and a plan for that research and how you might go about doing it. So again, it brings in those different ideas I talked about how can you conduct research, but then also how can you disseminate that information to make sure that it has real impact. And I think that will be a major emphasis of that module. The second semester common module that will be taken with other MSc students is the Bioentrepreneurship and Advanced Skills module. And again, it's a little bit similar to the previous module in thinking about the research that is going on and how we can maximize the impact for that. And again, a major idea of that would be, how could you possibly take an idea, how could you develop a plan to commercialize that, how might you go about doing that, how might you convince people to invest in your idea. And again, that is a major focus of the assessment for that module. And again, that module will primarily involve group work, whereby you will be working in a group to develop these ideas and the plans to take those ideas forward. And again, a combination of written work and oral presentation will be how that module is assessed. So Professor Chris Allen will coordinate this module for the school. So those modules are, let's say, taught modules, I would say. The literature review and research project are more reliant on the students to demonstrate their independence with the support of their supervisor, and potentially in the lab with PhD and project student and postdoctoral researchers that are working in a lab. But really, this is really for the student then to show that independence and to develop an understanding, a deep understanding of a particular topic, and also to get hands-on experience, primarily in the lab. So most of these projects that we will offer will be lab-based, but it may be an instance where somebody does not want to have a lab-based project, and we will have a number of desk-based projects as well. So again, it's really up to the individual to consider what they want to do, how they want to do it, and how they think that might advance their future career. So we really would like that thought to come from the students. So we will help, and I'll show examples of projects now in a minute of different things. So we will have a spectrum of projects that people will choose from. And again, in this area, we really, as I said, we really would like the student to take the lead in this. So I guess you will have academic supervision, you have support and training in the lab, or if it's desk-based projects, support in terms of the software and the different things that you need to do that type of project. But really then it's really for the student to take that project and lead on it themselves. So again, the literature review, as I said, so in January time, we will allocate a project, or you will choose a project. And the first task that you will have to do will be to prepare a literature review. So a literature review really is A research-based task where you will go and look at the scientific literature, both in terms of peer-reviewed journals, maybe look at any patents or intellectual property that is out there on this topic, maybe look at what different companies are doing, and bring all that information together and write, I would say, like a report or a review of the information that you found. That's a 5,000 word literature review. And again, it will be designed as a background to the project that you will do afterwards. Okay, so again, with your supervisor, they will help you identify what are the key components that you need to consider in looking at that topic. So literature review will go from February to May time, and then from June to September time, you will move into the research side of things. And again, that may be a lab-based project, as I said, or a desk-based project, but that is a significant part of the program is the 60 CADS module. So again, the research project will be a 5,000 word submission based on the style of a scientific paper. So we would like you to write your report in the style of a scientific paper. And again, so 5,000 words may or may not seem long, but it actually is quite hard to probably condense the information that you had into something that fits into 5,000 words. So that's a skill in itself, is you have to take that information and communicate that in a style that is appropriate for the scientific area that you're working in. So I think that's something that we would like, and that's the reason we've moved to scientific paper style, is to try to make people think about how they're going to communicate that information. So again, this is not actually this is only a small portion of a list of the type of projects that we might offer. Again, this list is probably from 2 years ago, and again, I just really put it there just to give an idea of the type of things that we are doing. So again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but really, we have a project on rice, looking at from Andy Maharg, looking at the effect of different types of rice and how you can actually associate the levels of contamination coming from those exposures to that type of rice. Then we have a project here from Lisa Connolly, who was really looking at different types of toxins and chemical contaminants and what impact they had on cells. And again, we're moving then here into more the analytical side of things from Kwon Kao, who's really developing rapid analytical detection methods for contaminants. Professor Chris Elliott was interested in looking at different types of spectroscopic methods to detect herbs and spices or fraud in herbs and spices, which was quite a topical issue at that time. And again, also from Andy Maharg as well, is looking at how can you actually process rice to maybe remove arsenic from that. Again, then these are more on the nutrition side of things. Again, animal nutrition side of things. Maybe also looking at the impact of different sources of protein. This is from Katarina, looking at different types of plants as an alternative feed source. So again, this is only a small proportion example, but these are the type of topics that we will provide you with. So we'll provide you with the topic, we'll provide you with the name of the supervisor who will work on that topic, and ideally we would like you to get you the project that you have a first preference for. And again, once we give you the literature review title and the research project title, you will deal directly with the academic supervisor to work on both the literature review and the research project. So together you will develop the concepts and the ideas, then you will work on that topic, and again, the supervisor throughout the course of the module will obviously have meetings with you and help you through that process. But again, as I said, it really is for the student to maximize the time to the best of their ability to write the reports and the submissions that we require from those types of modules. So again, just a very quick summary. So it's a 1-year full-time MSc. It runs from September 2020 to October 2021. In terms of teaching content, as I say, and definitely in first semester, we will have teaching contact with staff on virtually every day. Second semester, slightly less because you will be working on the literature review, which really will be for you to work on independently. And similarly, when we get into May, June, July, August time, it's really then for you to agree with the supervisor the amount of work that you need to do in the lab, and you have to plan that accordingly. So I would say it's quite maybe compared to some other master's programs where maybe there's only 1 or 2 days contact time. I would say we have quite a bit of contact time throughout the course of the master's, and I think that's good because you get exposure to the different types of academic staff and have interactions with those, but also then enables you to have time to work on your own as well. So it's not every day there will be a couple of hours. Maybe for some of the practical classes we will have longer days, but essentially there will be a lot of time available for the student to work independently. And again, I think that's when I mentioned about the databases and the peer-reviewed journals and the full text articles and things that you will be able to access once you're registered at Queen's. They become critical both in terms of your literature review and your research project, but also in terms of the assignments that you need to do for the other modules as well. So that's what the school can offer you. So that's the educational aspect and the content that we do. On the flip side of that, and we on the modules, on the transferable skill modules that I mentioned, we will have to think about other things as well. But as part of Queen's and offering the Queen's can bring to you also is the graduate school, which I mentioned at the very start. So here you can actually just see an image of the inside of the graduate school, which is a very nice building. Queen's spent quite a significant amount of money renovating this and making it into a very nice area for people to work in. And this is really dedicated space for postgraduate students. So that includes both postgraduate research students, but also our master students. So in this building, there's seminar rooms, there's rooms that you can book to work as a group. There's also a dedicated computer space, which is very nice for master students. And again, the idea is this is a space where the master students should really take advantage of, and again, it's dedicated to them. So only really masters or postgraduate students are allowed into this building. And again, the reason I mention that is because I think those meeting rooms and the space that's in there are really the type of things that you as a master student should be really taking advantage of. So have the space, but also the graduate school offer different types of courses. And again, that might be writing skill courses, communication courses, career planning courses, leadership courses, management courses. And these are advertised on a regular basis. So these are not assessed by us in terms of the MSc itself, but these are extra things that students can do with a view to their future career advancement as well. So I think these are those types of skills, maybe soft skills, but I would say critical skills that I think employers are looking for down the line. And again, I think the graduate school is really there to think about that and help students with that. So as an MSc student, you will be getting regular updates about welcome weeks or maybe events for international students and things, or maybe things specifically focused in terms of writing and scientific writing skills, which I think is very important. And again, it's really for students to really take advantage of that. So, yeah, so maybe then we'll just talk, before we move on to some questions, then I think I'll just go through some of the other administrative side of things. So here's just really a summary of the fees and the scholarships that are on offer. So if you go onto the Queen's webpage, you can actually have a look at in more detail these aspects. So there's a finance page, there's a page about scholarships, there's a page about international students. There's also information about accommodation in the Belfast area, both offered by Queen's, but also in the private accommodation offered around Queen's. So I think it's worth having a look at that. Again, I think it's worth having a look at the scholarships and the finance page about fees and different aspects of that to try to understand the different options that are available for students enrolling in the program. And again, I think for domestic students, there's some schemes available, loan schemes that are available for students to do master's programs as well. So I think it's worth having a look. It's worth having a look at that. And again, if you look at the Advanced Food Safety page on Course Finder and Queen's, you will find more detailed information about these. In terms of entry requirements, So we generally anticipate that applicants will have a 2T equivalent to a UK 2-2 honours degree. And again, my advice would be, if you're interested in applying for the course and haven't done so already, then I would, make an application to Queen's, provide the details that you have, and let our admission service assess your qualifications. And if they require information, they will come back to you. If they need more details, they might be able to make you a conditional offer subject to you providing that information. Or if they're happy with what you provided in terms of the information, then essentially they can make you an unconditional offer. So my advice would be, make an application. The university are really quick at making decisions on applications. And the reason I say make an application early would be, in terms of, particularly for international students, would be about the English language requirements. So we, for entry into UK, there's various qualifications, English language qualifications that are accepted. And again, the university can advise you when you make your application of what, either based on what you have, what else you might need, or if what you have is sufficient to do that. So again, it's worth having a look at that. Again, the reason I mention that as well is, obviously, at the current situation with international students with coronavirus, it might be hard to get access to some of the English testing qualifications. Again, and Queen's might have some contingency plans in place for that. So again, it will be worth making an application and seeing what advice they may come back to you on that for. So again, in terms, so I said, if you've made an application and you've got some feedback from the university on that, that's all good. But if you've not made an application, as I said, then you should go on. It's an online application process, relatively straightforward to do that. And again, if you're doing that and you've got particular issues which are more general queries, then the askmhls@qub.ac.uk is probably the best email to do that through. Again, I'm very happy to answer any queries that you might have. My email address is actually mark.mooney@qub.ac.uk. If you go onto the Queen's webpage, the School of Biological webpage, you will find my contact details there as well. Obviously, in the current circumstances, the university is not open at the minute, but again, if people are in the general vicinity of Belfast and things do get back to normal again, then I'm happy to meet people and show them around the building, or have a chat in person about that. Or if you would like to have a Skype call or whatever, I'm more than happy to do that as well, if you have more course specific details. Or again, I'm happy to do that by email as well. And again, if you go onto the Queen's webpage, I think you will find a lot more detail about that. In terms of where our students go after this, so again, recently what we found is I would say some of our students stay on to do PhD students. So this year, for example, I know of 3 or 4 of our last year's group of students, mainly the international students actually, who have stayed on at Queen's to do a PhD. So the way that will work essentially is that you will complete your MSc qualification at Queen's, and then you will start your PhD. So the two of them don't really roll into each other, if you know what I mean. So you basically complete this qualification and then start a course of PhD study. So that is an option for people. And again, I would say, from what I know from last year, is essentially these are students who did a master's project and have now continued that on into their PhD study. So that topic has evolved from their master's project into a fully fledged PhD project. So I say a number of people are interested in that. And again, that staying on to do a PhD after the master's is not an uncommon thing. And it's really for people to decide if that is what they want to do. I would say then maybe other students that we've had coming through the program have gone on to work for food companies, for regulatory bodies, for regulatory testing laboratories. And again, I think if you look at the content of the program, I think it's quite broad. So I think for people who are applying for jobs afterwards, I think the program itself offers opportunities to expand into a range of different areas as well. So again, so I think people who are interested in the research, definitely this is a program that can lead into that. But maybe then also then people who are not interested in that avenue for future careers, then equally I think it's a program that offers up opportunities, because all the topics that we're talking about have a relevance to food companies, to regulatory agencies, to diagnostic companies. And again, I think they're the type of employers that most people would see themselves going to afterwards. So I think we're now going to play a short video from the Queen's webpage. And again, I think if anyone's got any queries, please use the chat box, and I'm looking at that at the minute. So again, after the video, maybe then we'll have an opportunity to go through some questions and queries that people have.
When I decided to study at UK, and my teacher recommended this school to me, I searched some information on the internet, and I found that Queen's is a very good school that have a long history.
Queen's can provide me the most advanced equipment for the lab service. The education is much important, and also the professor here, they are really famous, so I choose here. My summer project is about antibiotics, and I will do some analysis to find the plant phytochemicals as alternatives of the clinical antibiotics. So I think it's really interesting for me.
I'm preparing my literature review now, and it is about how to figure out the infections caused by virus or bacteria.
My supervisor is Dr. Paul Williams. He's a very nice and patient teacher that helped me a lot.
My supervisor is Professor Chris Angus, and he is a very professional professor in the food industry, and I feel very honored to be studying with him.
I live in Elms Village, which is the largest accommodation in Queens.
It's really nice. I live in a studio, so I have kitchen, living room, and all the equipments are really nice for me.
I think Belfast is a relatively small city that we can almost walk to everywhere.
This is a friendly city.
It's really make me feel cozy, and also I think here it's not that expensive to live and study here.
Belfast have some Chinese supermarket and restaurant, so it's very convenient for Chinese students.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of the chat box queries that we have. And again, I think that, yeah, so the query that we had, so I think there's a question there about PhDs. So I think, as I said, I think it's really up to the student to decide if that, I think in Queen's, obviously we're a research intensive university, we would look to our master's programs as a way of recruiting into our PhD programs. So I think, as I said previously, for each of the 4 or 5 years that we've been running the program, a number of students have stayed on to do PhDs, either here, or actually I know also of students who've gone elsewhere to do PhDs in other institutions as well. So I think as an avenue or route towards a PhD, I think this is a program that fits that remit, if that's what people are interested in. Again, equally, if that's not what you're interested in, I think the program has content and coverage that is broad enough to enable you to go into other opportunities as well. Currently, we don't offer work placements, so some of the other master's programs in Queen's do offer a work placement. Having said that, maybe not this year, but in previous years, we've enabled people to work in labs outside of the university. So, for example, we have the Agri-Food and Biosciences Institute in Northern Ireland, which is the government agency that does research in the agri-food area. And not this year, for whatever reason, we didn't have a student selecting that. But in previous years, we've had students who've worked in those laboratories doing projects. And that's something that we can look into. Again, similarly, we've had in previous years some of our Chinese students going back to China to do a project in conjunction with, for example, Mars, for example. So we had a project like that. So that's a possibility. Equally, a lot of the projects that we do offer have industry involvement. Because again, a lot of the research that we do in Queen's has an industry focus, so there will be industry involvement in those projects, external partners involved in that. It's something that we have not offered directly through the program, but it's something that I think if somebody was really keen on working with a particular company or knew of an academic in Queen's who was working with a company, then that is something that I think that we could facilitate. And again, that would be done in conjunction with me as the program coordinator or with the supervisor of the project. So I think that would have to be done in agreement with everybody, with the students, the program coordinator, and the supervisor. So it's not something we offer directly like other programs, but it's something that we could facilitate. So just on the projects, so I think there was a question there about if people had a preference for the same project, how do we go about doing that? And again, the way that we've been working it, the way I did it this year essentially was I provided everybody with the list of the projects. The students ranked their projects from 1 till their top 10 projects. And then what I did was try to ensure that everybody got their first pick. I think this year, out of the 24, I think 20 of the 24 got their first pick. And maybe 3 or 4, when I had a discussion with them about what they really wanted to do, they ended up going with their second pick. So that's the type of thing that we've been doing to date and has sort of worked that way. It may also be that if you're been taught by an academic or a lecturer and you say, listen, I really want to work with Mark Mooney, for example, then maybe, early on in the year, you might have a discussion with me or whoever the other academic is and say, listen, I would like to do a project with you. And between you and the academic, you could have somehow informally agree what the project title might be, and then maybe that's a way that we can do it as well. So I think I'm interested, it makes more work for us on their side to try to organize these type of things, but I think the selection of the project is a really important aspect. And again, I really would like to ensure that people are doing a topic that they're interested in. Academically, probably it shouldn't really matter what project you're working on because it's the skills that we would like you to develop. But I think of a general interest point of view, it would be good to ensure that students are doing that. So, I think working with industry, working with a particular academic, working on a particular topic, these are discussions that I would be happy to have discussions with people and try to facilitate that, because I think that's important. If you're going to spend so much time on that, then it's probably good to have that. Then there was a question then a little bit about how much time you might spend in the lab. So I think that really varies from module to module. So in semester 1, the food safety module, food safety and health module, you won't be in the lab for that module. For advanced food analysis, you will be a little bit more in the lab for that module. So maybe that might be a third of the time might be in the lab, I would say, maybe of a general timetable, like I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then maybe the advanced food bioanalysis, you might spend a little bit more time in the lab as well. But I think the real lab time, if people really, really focus on lab time, then May, June, July, August, September time, essentially you can be in the lab every day for as long, well, not as long as you like, but basically from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock each day, essentially the lab environment is there for you to be there. And again, it may be that you don't have to be there for all that time. Or maybe that you're involved in a project that you do need to be there more than others and so on. So I think really that is between you, your supervisor, and the requirements of your actual project to be there. Okay, so I think that's the type of stepping up of lab time that you probably would see in a program like this. And again, a timetable. So I think the question about timetable. So I think, as I said, I'm using food safety and health as an example because I teach quite a bit on that one. So I would say on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and a Friday, there's class each day from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Then on the Wednesday, I think it's the Wednesday that we have the fundamental skills module, and there'll be 2 hours on that day as well. So for the first six weeks, there will be 2 hours a week of contact time. Then the rest will be for you to do your assignments and things. So I would say on the first day that you come to us, I think either myself or Dr. Shizu Su will take you that day. And basically on the first day, we'll have a 2-hour class, more of an introduction type of class. But on the first day, you will get your assignment. You will get your assignment for that first week. And then so in between the lectures and completion of that assignment, then that's how you will spend your time during that week. Then as we get into maybe later on this semester, as I say, more than likely it will be still 2 hours a day, but it may be some days where maybe 1 day a week you might have a long day in the lab if there's a practical session. So I think when there's practical class, it's likely that will run from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock or 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock or something like that. So slightly longer period of time for that. The next academic year, well, essentially that will start under current circumstances, we hope that it will start in end of September as we normally do. The university are obviously planning contingency measures about when we might be starting. So we might have different start dates that might be, but at the minute, so that's why I think if you've been made an offer, then I think the university will be updating you as we go along in that, because I think that's a developing situation about that. Again, the idea would be when we know the start date that we will have, we will continue somehow or another. We will still continue with the format and the modules that we're running at the minute, but again, that's under discussions at the minute. And again, I think if people have made an application, you will be updated as and when those decisions are being made. So at the minute, I can't really say so much other than those discussions are going on and planning is in place to try to do that. Yeah, so I think, and then there was one question about where do careers and job roles that people have gone to in the past. So I think I sort of touched upon that a little bit, and again, I think there's not a single path that I would say people have gone on. I think, as I said, various people have gone into different areas of employment. Some have stayed on to do research, and as I said, have gone on to other places to do PhD research. More recently, I think international students have been returning home to their home country and getting employment in their home country for that. And as I say, I think I can speak from a Northern Ireland, UK perspective that there is a high need for graduates from these fields, primarily because in the nutrition and the agri-food sector, maybe there's definitely a deficit in capacity in those areas. So I think our undergraduate students, for example, a lot of them go directly into employment straight after their degree program because there's a capacity to absorb those students into the workforce. I think it's really then for MSc students during the period. So I think MSc is not a bad thing in one sense to do one, because essentially it gives you a bit of space to think about what you want to do and plan that. And it might be over the year that people might move from saying I want to do research to not doing research, or vice versa. Might want to say, well, actually, I'm more interested to stay in research than I thought I would have been at the start of the program. But equally, I think for people who want to get employment elsewhere, then the idea would be that this master's would be able to give you a bit of space to actually plan out what you would like to do afterwards as well. There was a question there about so in terms of scholarships, there is a scholarship available at the minute, but it's really for the distance learning MSc program. It's not directly related to this program. So for anybody who has seen a Commonwealth scholarship advertised, it's really for the distance learning option rather than the on-site masters. So the distance learning masters is a part-time masters, which runs over a 3-year period, and the Commonwealth scholarship is aligned to that part-time program rather than this one. Yeah, I don't know. I think I can't see anything more questions about that. Yeah, I mean, well, there was one question there a little bit about what was a triple module. So that was me more or less just saying like the project is worth 3 times the other modules. So really that's really just to put the significance on the project side of things as well. So that's really what I was talking about in terms of a triple module. So I think if no one's got any more questions, I think we might leave it at that. As I say, if you've got particular generic questions, ask mhls@qub.ac.uk is probably the best email to go for. If you got particular course specific questions or queries or anything you would like to know about that, I mean, just email me directly at mark.mooney@qub.ac.uk, and I'll get back to you directly about that. And I said, if anybody's in Belfast, I'm happy to meet up with them in due course if that is something that you would like to do. So I think if you're interested in the course, I would make an application. For this program, there's no immediate requirement to do anything. So basically, the university makes you an offer. It's really up to you to decide if you want to come and how you want to come to do that. And maybe that's the idea of making an application nice and early so you can actually have a think about it. There's a question here about projects related to food microbiology. So yes, again, I think that is something that we can offer. Again, I spoke about previously about projects that we had in conjunction with AFBI, the Agri-Food and Bioscience Institute. So again, in previous years, we had students working with their researchers who are leading work on Campylobacter and Salmonella and that area of side of things. So definitely on that aspect, we can offer projects like that. Also within the new School of Biological Sciences, we have microbiology facilities. And one of our researchers, Professor Irene Grant, is particularly interested about food microbiology side of aspects, looking at tea and different things, more animal health microbiology, but also in the food aspects as well. So I think I would say, and we also have a Professor Shay Fanning from UCD, who is a joint appointment between Queen's and University College in Dublin, and he is a food microbiologist as well. His expertise is primarily in Salmonella area, and again, I think there would be opportunity to offer projects in that area as well. So again, I think if people came and said, listen, I'm particularly interested in food micro, or I'm particularly interested in marine toxins, or I mean, they're the type of projects that we would like to offer specifically to people who had key interest in those areas for that. There was one question there about how long can international students stay in the UK after completing the course. That I'm not 100% sure about. I do know that the UK government recently were looking at this aspect and having or planning that they would enable international students stay for a period of time after they've completed the course. So at the minute, I can't really answer that. I think if you email the ASK MHLS email, they will give the definite details on that. But I do know that the UK government were thinking of extending that longer than what it is currently. So it will be good to ask directly about that, because I mean that's a developing situation as well. But at least then you will get the official confirmation about the university about what that is. And again, the university can help in terms of visas and other issues as well that people may need to get into the UK as well. So I think that's everything I can see on the chat box. So I just want to thank you for staying through it for so long in the presentation. And again, we're happy to answer any queries that you have afterwards on this. And if I see you in September time, hopefully, then it will be good to make your acquaintance, but we'll see how things go in the meantime. Okay.